Let's begin with the objective. The objective of this survey is created based on the current issues, as we know that teenagers nowadays have been involved in some chronic disease problems such as high blood pressure, heart disease and also diabetes. So, knowledge is very important to everyone because it is required for the changes in dietary habits in order to prevent from getting the chronic disease in an early age. First and foremost, the objective of this survey is to identify the level of nutritional knowledge among teenagers in Malaysia. And the second one is to characterize the dietary pattern and nutritional knowledge of teenagers in Malaysia. Besides, the aim of this survey is actually to evaluate the dietary pattern of teenagers, either vegetarian, snacking, health conscious or convenience, red meat and alcohol. For example, if the teenagers are in the type of vegetarian, it means that they prefer to eat more vegetables such as carrot, cucumber, cabbage and salad, which is good for their health, but they also may have less in protein and carbohydrate. Besides, if the teenagers are in the dietary pattern of snacking, it shows that they like to eat fast food such as KFC and McDonald's, which can be considered to be high in cholesterol that can lead to the chronic disease. Next, if the teenagers are in the type of health conscious, they are known to have a good dietary habit as they prefer to eat more vegetables and consume less unhealthy foods. Besides, it is also aimed to identify the knowledge of teenagers about nutritious food, either their level of knowledge is high or low. The knowledge of teenagers can be considered to be related with their family background, either their parents is control or monitor their children's food intake, or the parents is actually don't care about their children's dietary eating habit. Now, let's move to the method. This survey was conducted by a development of questionnaire which is about general nutrition knowledge, and it have been carried out by a Google form. This survey have been divided into 3 parts, which is Part A, demographic, Part B, dietary pattern, and Part C is nutritional knowledge. Part A is demographic, which is involving questions about respondents' background. The criteria of respondents involved is age, which comes in several range, starting from 13 years old until 24 years old. And the other demographic characteristics involved is status, gender, either female or male, location, religion and education, which is starting from PT3 until the postgraduate. Next, Part B is about dietary pattern, which aim to know either the teenagers are practicing a good eating habit or not. This part consists of 10 questions and the answer scored on 1 to 3 scale, which is 1 represent for often, 2 represent for sometimes and 3 represent for never. The last part is Part C, which is nutritional knowledge. This part also consists of 10 questions but with 2 answer choices, which is yes or no. Besides, this survey was carried out for about 2 weeks, which is starting from 4 November until 18 November 2020. And for the data collection, this survey was carried out in Malaysia and the total of respondents is 158 people, which comes in various ages and in different gender.
The result of dietary pattern. As we know, taking a breakfast is very important in our life to start our daily routine. It replenishes to supply the glucose in our body to boost the energy. 35.4% show that teenagers take their breakfast every morning, while 3.8% the teenagers did not taking their breakfast every morning. It shows that most of the teenagers do having their breakfast every morning to supply essential nutrition for their good health. And this is show that teenagers know the benefit of taking the breakfast every morning. Second question, did the teenagers separate the vegetable from their food? Okay, as we know, Vegetables are important source of many nutrients, including potassium, dietary fiber, folic acid, vitamin A, and vitamin C. Introduce the vegetable to the kid is the best way to ensure their growth is well. The frequency of teenagers that choose never separate vegetable from the food is the highest among others, which is 55.7%. We can say teenagers like to eat vegetable and never separate the vegetable from the food. It also shows that teenagers know the benefit of the vegetable, and they also know the part of important is healthy eating pattern. Of dietary pattern and nutrition knowledge among the teenagers in Malaysia. Result for nutrition knowledge. As we know, carbohydrate is very important in our balancing diet, but if we are taking it too much, it will lead us to the disease. The respondents have answered overall for that 75.3 is unknowing that if they are taking too much carbohydrate, it will lead to the heart disease and chronic disease. Rest of the respondent, 39 people, didn't know that if they are taking too much carbohydrate, it will lead to the disease.
So we go into the discussion of our topic in the survey, which is dietary pattern and nutritional knowledge. For the question 1 in dietary pattern, do you take breakfast every morning? So we compare them with the two aspects, which is often and never. We can say that 56 teenagers speak often, while 6 teenagers do not take their breakfast. So the positive gap and big gap between these two aspects shows the good side of the teenagers, that they actually tend to take their breakfast every morning as a dietary pattern and a routine for them. So for support this statement, we found that Dr. Barakatul Nisak, a lecturer from Building of Food and Dietetic University Malaysia Pahang UPM, he says that breakfast is not only giving the energy for starting the day, but it gives a very good weight management for us. And he also says that a glass of chocolate milk is enough, as a milk is known as a complete meal for giving energy for a day. And this statement is supported by Dr. Zubaidi Haji Ahmad, a doctor from Malaysia Medical Association. He says that during Ramadan, milk is recommended to be consumed during our pre-dawn meal sahur, because it is proved to give the fullness for our stomach for the whole day because of the protein content in the milk. So we move to the question 4 in dietary pattern segment. From the question, do you really separate vegetables from your food when you eat? So we found a good response from the teenagers, which is majority of them, 88 teenagers, pick never separate their vegetables, while only 22 teenagers pick often separate their vegetables from the food. So we can say that the positive gap between the comparison shows us the most of teens in Malaysia loves and tend to eat vegetables in their meal instead of separating them. Research of Harvard University. The enough portion of vegetables or fruits in every meal we are taking is actually 50% in daily meal, which is actually big percent. So also eating vegetables proves to reduce the risk of heart disease, reduce some types of cancer, lower the blood pressure, and etc. Also, little did you know, people that do not taking vegetables in their daily meal tend to have the difficulties in gaining the phytonutrient in their body, which is a chemical that is important in fighting cancer and heart disease. Madam Jaslina, a dietitian from University Malaysia Pahang UPM, says that the tips for people that do not love to eat vegetable is we need to try to avoid the bitter greeneries for a meal. The second one is try to decorate or put varieties of color of vegetable in your meal, so it can increase your interest to eat the vegetable. So we move to the nutritional knowledge question 1 in this survey. From the question 1, do you know that taking too much of carbohydrate can lead to the heart disease? So we found a good response from the teenagers from the survey, which is a majority 119 teenagers say yes that they actually knew that the overcarbohydrate content will cause to heart disease. This is actually surprising as the teens have a good nutritional knowledge with them. This is actually right as the support statement from the Dr. Salim Yusuf, a cardiologist, during his speech at the event of cardiology in Switzerland. He says that the more carbs you eat, the bigger risk of heart disease you will get. So besides, he says that the excessive carbohydrate is the primary factor that is bad for health. His study also found that people that have heart disease tend to live in western and urban countries.
In conclusion, a dietary pattern is the quantity, variety or combination of different foods or beverage in a person's diet and the frequency which they habitually consume them. While nutritional knowledge referring to knowledge of concept and process about nutrition and health from the survey conducted among 158 teenagers in Malaysia in between age of 13 to 24 years old, it is found that these teenagers are having a higher level of nutritional knowledge. Nevertheless, their dietary pattern is inconsistently shifting between healthful dietary pattern and unhealthful dietary pattern. Considering that these teenagers are consuming enough vegetables and fruits in their meal and prefer to have rice as a main carbohydrate source, it means that most of the teenagers are adopting a health-conscious pattern in their diet. However, out of 158 teenagers, more than half of them, especially male, and live in urban area, not consistently follow their healthful dietary pattern, as they are also tempted into unhealthful dietary pattern by consuming fast food, chocolates, soft drink and other unhealthy food, as well as skip breakfast and meal. On top of that, they are also repeatedly craving for something sweet and junk food whenever they are hungry. This type of convenience pattern is due to high accessibility and availability of junk food nowadays that are considered easy, require less time and energy to prepare. Despite being aware of the consequences, influence among friends and trends of urban lifestyle have much contributed to the factor that drive the changing of the pattern in between healthful and unhealthful dietary pattern among teenagers. In terms of level of nutritional knowledge, teenagers show a higher level of nutritional knowledge regarding the definition of calorie, health problem or disease related to nutrition, food portion of suku-suku separuh, nutritional level information on food products, and group of food in the food pyramid. Nutritional knowledge is no stranger to the teenager as they have been learning them either formally in their school or informally at their home. Moreover, concerning the higher level of nutritional knowledge among teenagers, yet their dietary pattern is inconsistently swayed between healthful and unhealthful dietary pattern, there is a need for nutrition counseling by the expert in order to reduce the gap between knowledge and practice of their dietary pattern. Teenagers should be advised and guided with a better and healthy food intake for them to be more cautious with their choice of food. Other than that, a campaign or program on promoting a healthy lifestyle can be held by government to create the awareness of healthy dietary pattern among the teenagers. It is because teenagers who practice a healthful dietary pattern and with a higher level of nutritional knowledge will lead to a better life while reducing nutrition-related disease among teenagers in Malaysia.